listen, I don't need to see all your investments. I don't need to see all the titling for the farms and all of that. I just want to know how things are going day to day. And maybe we can help a little bit, especially if you begin to see that your parents are getting confused, if you see bills piling up in the mail, if you feel like perhaps they're being taken advantage of. Those bank statements can tell a lot. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Prairie Fire Podcast. So happy to have you here. We are beginning a new series today, and we're going to be talking about caring for mom and dad. Many of us, we get into our 40s, 50s, become empty nesters. We've launched our children, and then all of a sudden we realize we have new children, and it becomes our mom and dad who have taken care of us for so many years and done so much for us. We feel eternally grateful for that work that they've done to help us. And now life has changed. Life is changing for them as they begin to deal with healthcare issues, financial issues, where they're going to live, perhaps the loss of a spouse. All of these matters become front and center for a lot of families. And as we've talked to our clients and friends over the last number of years and watched the evolution of their family and their role as a caregiver change, there's a lot of common issues that come up. There's some that are rather extraordinary and some that are rather expected and things that we can do to plan for. So the idea with the series here is to give you some ideas, whether you're dealing with this issue yet or not, to prepare for the time when the time comes that you need to take care of mom and dad in some way, whether it's getting some care into their home, whether it's relocating them, whether it's dusting off all of their financial affairs and estate issues, digging into some of the things that have been going on in their life. And so when this starts, it can be very stressful for everyone. Parents, in many cases, especially the boomer generation and younger, the greatest generation, they don't like sharing their financial affairs. They don't like talking about end of life. No one does. When you start to dive into these things with mom and dad, it can create tension with them. It can make them very irritable and upset with you. And it just requires a lot of preparation, empathy, and patience. I would say the biggest thing that's going to be required as you move into this stage of life is patience. You had a lot of it when your children were young. As they get older, you lose it when they're teenagers because they're so darn stupid. Now we have to regrow our patience muscles. We have to reflex those as our adult parents begin to age and need our help. The roles reverse, and all of a sudden, where they have cared for us for so long and so well, it's now our turn to return that favor and to dig in. So today we're going to talk about some of the broad issues around estates, around taxes, around insurance, around preparing documents, getting things like that, just getting your house in order when it comes to helping mom and dad, and where we can begin to intervene and become a partner in their journey a little bit more, and just get ready for what's to come with that journey with our parents. And then I've got some interviews coming up in this series where I'm going to be talking to a real estate expert that works in senior housing, and the things that you can do to prepare both yourself and your parents for when they may need to move or get in-home care, all of those different issues. She's an expert in that. You're going to learn a lot from her. So I look forward to that. I'm interviewing another gal who's an expert and also dealt with a very, very unique situation in her own family that she was kind enough to share. We'll be bringing in some other folks as well as we go throughout this, but it's a broad topic. There's lots to be thinking about, and I hope you'll find it really, really helpful. At the bottom of our page, whether you're on our YouTube channel or if you're getting this in the podcast, we've got a deliverable on this called In 2024, What Issues Should I Consider for My Aging Parents? This is a flow chart and a checklist that gives a lot of information about things to be thinking about. I found this to be very helpful. It's got our information, Prairie Fire information on the top, as well as our contact information. But more than anything, it gives a lot of things to be thinking about. And while not all of them may not be applicable now, they could be things that you'll have to deal with in the future. So again, that's going to be in the show notes on our YouTube channel, or it should be in the podcast notes on our podcast RSS feed as well. So if you, for some reason, can't locate this or want an additional copy as a PDF, just send an email to info@PFW Planning and ask us for a copy of the checklist for what issues should I consider for my aging parents. Okay, so with that, let's kick things off. In the realm of issues, like I said, we're going to kind of be talking a little bit about the financial affairs as well as the emotional affairs, living, all of that kind of thing. But in the forefront, as you just begin this journey with mom and dad, the immediate money issues are a few that need to be considered. So where do they keep their bank accounts? In many cases, where do they keep their investments? How do they have their real estate titled? Some of these immediate issues that are going on in their life. And so understanding also how their cash flow is working. Are they able to pay their bills each month? Is their Social Security coming through okay? just asking if perhaps you can see bank statements, asking if perhaps they would want you to be added to their bank accounts. Because if something does happen to them, especially if one of your parents is gone, so say that you have a father living alone, adding a child to that bank account can be very, very helpful. You can get information from the bank, you can write checks as needed, pay bills that perhaps they've forgotten about, all of that. But dusting off their financial affairs in the immediacy of what's going on day to day in their life. Are they investing money? Are they giving money away? Are they up on, let's say, on their taxes, their property taxes and their home and all those kind of things? If they have their home paid off, a lot of folks forget later in life they got to pay property taxes and they don't have the escrow account to do that for them. And overall, look at, do they have any investments? Are those investments titled properly? Do they have annuities and those kind of things? A lot of people grew up in 30s and 40s and 50s. They bought a lot of different CDs. They bought things like savings bonds. They may have things that you don't deal with at all in your own personal financial life, but they dealt with quite a bit. A lot of them would buy these savings bonds with the intent to give them to kids for college down the road or grandkids, and they just forget about them. They sit in a safety deposit box. That would be another immediate thing to think about, is a safety deposit box. If they have one, getting your name added to that. Many of you know I started my career as a banker. When I was running the bank on the east side of Des Moines, I've never had people get more upset with me than when a parent would pass away and no one could get into the safe deposit box because they hadn't been added. Maybe the rules are different now, but it used to be you had to be an owner on that box to get access, and we had to be very strict about it. And people would come in caravans of people wanting to access that safe deposit box. I don't know for what reason, but generally not good ones, and wanted access to that, and I wasn't able to give it. And so let the yelling and screaming ensue. Anyway, prepare yourself for that. If they have a safe deposit box, I really, really encourage you to get named on that as an owner with a key so that you can get in there as needed. So the immediate issues, understanding where the money's going now, where do they have their banking accounts, if they have perhaps a lot of different CDs. Another thing that folks would do is they would shop around for CDs. Lisa's family, her mother used to just call the banks every Saturday and see what the rates were at, and then would put a CD there. So then all of a sudden you've got 10 banks. You're getting statements from different, CDs maturing. They're just getting automatically renewed. You know what I'm talking about. So getting things organized, again, this is an area that needs patience. And maybe you just start with, hey, can I just get a look at where your recent bank statements? Just want to get a feel for what's going on, only in an interest to help. I'm not going to write any checks. I'm not going to change anything. Go slow. Ask good, broad questions. Hey, is everything going okay as far as paying your bills and stuff? Would you like any help? Just having a second set of eyes, sometimes things like that can help. So just getting a little bit of a look under the hood as patiently as you can is one of those immediate money issues that can help get the whole ball rolling here. As you're starting to get more involved in their life, the immediate money issue is a great way to start, just to start slow. Listen, I don't need to see all your investments. I don't need to see all the titling for the farms and all of that. I just want to know how things are going day to day, and maybe we can help a little bit, especially if you begin to see that your parents are getting confused, if you see bills piling up in the mail, if you feel like perhaps they're being taken advantage of. Those bank statements can tell a lot. Living arrangements is a big one. Where are mom and dad going to live? For many of us, they're in the family home. They've been in a home for 20, 30 years plus. They own the house outright. They are comfortable there. They have all of their stuff there. They have, if they're like my father, boxes of books and old records and things in the basement. And the thought of moving or changing is frightening for mom and dad. This is what they're used to. They like the routine. They know where the coffee machine is. They know where the vacuum cleaner is. They know where my grandma used to put away little bars of soap in a big jar, and doggone it, she knew right where they were in the basement. I think this was a Depression era thing, but anyway. So the living arrangement thing is something that parents can be very, very sensitive about. They don't want to move. They don't want change. It's frightening to them, especially if it's going to be moving to some sort of care facility where they're getting additional assistance, things like that. So however you can begin this transition slowly and with some empathy, the better off you're going to be. So again, the earlier that we can begin intervening, is this going to be the right place for you or not? I'll just give you an example with my parents. They lived in a 3-story townhouse. So basically had 3 floors. One they lived on, and upstairs for guests, and a downstairs where they would hang out. And so a lot of steps, a lot of ups and downs. And then unfortunately I had a client who fell, and she unfortunately passed away not long after that. And it really got me thinking that all of these stairs are not a good thing. as you get into your 80s. The mobility factors, all of that. And I also read a book by Peter Attia, which is called Outlive. And he mentioned the statistics in there of the biggest reason people pass away when they get elderly is because of a fall. So I wanted to do what we could and to help my parents avoid that. So my sister and I got together and we helped them get it relocated into a townhouse where they would basically could live on one level if they wanted to. They do have a downstairs with some extra room, but it's a lot less steps. It's a lot less severe as far as the ups and downs go. And they have a lot of access on their main floor. So that was a step that we took that I felt was an intermediate one that would allow them to continue to live independently, which they are very much still able to do in their mid 80s. But I felt better about the risk of a fall getting reduced quite a bit. It also was a chance for us to give back to them a little bit and help with the house purchase and be part of that for them, so that after all they've done for us, putting both my sister and I through college, taking care of us all these years, being a huge support to us and our children, that this was a chance for us to give back. So if you're able to do that, great. If not, there's lots of different alternatives, whether it's moving to a rental where they can have an elevator and live in an area that's just easier to access, because these stairs and the ups and downs of, garages and decks, and it all creates additional threats that maybe just aren't necessary. So that's one example. For many folks, when the conversation comes that perhaps we have a memory issue, and this is the case that we have with my wife's mother, where you could just tell her memory was beginning to slip, and her father did not want to have her go to a care facility, waited for a long, long time. This was really something that required her whole family, all of us, just to be patient and just point out things, lean on the doctors to say there may be a problem here, all of that. I mean, it's very sad and it was very difficult, but eventually we did get her moved into memory care, full-time memory care, and she's still there now. And while the transition was tough and the loss of her memory and her inability to remember us is tough for the entire family, she's where she needs to be and she's well taken care of. And we always hear from them if there's a problem, or if even when she's doing well, we hear that's the case. So these living arrangements can be sensitive and they can take a lot of time. So this is where preparation and beginning the conversation early is the best thing possible. From there, it's examining, do we need to do in-home care? There's more and more options now where people can be cared for in their home. People can come visit and take care of shopping, all the things that are going on in their life. In our future episodes, we'll be talking about some of the activities of daily living and when those begin to slip, what needs to be done. And our real estate expert will share a lot more about this. But the living arrangements is a big one, and it's a very, very sensitive one. And getting our arms around what they may feel for a possibility of what they will and won't do will help a lot in the journey, so that you can begin modifying your expectations as well. Next thing I want to talk about briefly is insurance. Just trying to get an understanding of where they have insurance. Some people will have long-term care policies. Some parents will have these that they bought many, many years ago and have either let them lapse, or they're still paying on them but don't realize that they still have them because the payments are coming out automatically. And if all of a sudden now you're looking into where they might have a care need, obviously the insurance will be very, very helpful. We found out for Lisa's mother that she did have a long-term care policy that helps pay a portion of what she's got going on now for her memory care. They can be very, very helpful. In many cases, people forget they have them. And so helping and asking the question of, do you have any long-term care policies? Do you have any life insurance? Life insurance is another one that people tend to let lapse as they get older. Like, what do I need this for? My kids will be fine, etc. In some cases, these policies can have cash values to them that will get eroded over time if they're not making premium payments. So you need to get these policies dusted off to see if you still need them. In many cases, they may have a life insurance policy with a huge cash value built up over all these years that they've been paying into. In some cases, that can be converted to being used for long-term care, or you can begin withdrawing that money in a tax-favored situation where you can then use it for a long-term care need or home health care or whatever's going on with your parents and your family. But asking these questions of, do you have any insurance? Can I take a quick look at a policy? Getting an expert involved in these areas to see what's going to be the best use case, because in many cases, they may not need life insurance any longer. They may just need cash flow more. They may need long-term care assistance versus a big life insurance policy. So something to think about there. And then just property insurance, the basics, their cars, are they keeping those insured? All those kind of things, just to understand things are being taken care of here. I don't have to worry about this. that insurance piece can be a huge one. Just like living, just like immediate money, just like insurance, estate issues can be very thorny with families. When you begin asking questions about, do you have a will? Do you have a living trust set up? Who are your beneficiaries on the different accounts? If they've got a lot of investments in IRAs, are those beneficiaries up to date? They don't like talking about this. I speak from experience that parents don't like talking about these kind of things. And it also gets into then understanding their last wishes and things like that, which are, again, very difficult conversations. But one, as you're moving through this process, this may not be where you want to start. This might be where you want to come in a little bit later and just say, so have you done anything that we can help with as far as estate planning and taking care of what's going to happen next? And when's the last time you looked at your will? In many cases, they may have put their will together when you were a kid. So it's been 40, 50 years before that's been looked at. They may have charitable things they want to begin doing, or charities are supporting now that they want to take care of after they pass, doing lifetime or estate gifts, those kind of things. So this is the next iteration of understanding what's going on and seeing where you can help. Beneficiary designations on IRAs, Roth IRAs, annuities, again, can get left behind. They can be forgotten over time as to how they did it. And so there could have been a divorce in the family, maybe not your parents, but one of the kids, and there's an ex-spouse still listed as a beneficiary somewhere. Maybe they want the grandkids more involved, and the will can get that accomplished. Or they have maybe a 529 account set up for a grandkid that they've forgot about, or it's still out there that could actually be used for the grandkids' school. Understanding these estate issues is imperative to making sure that you're not penalized tax-wise, that the estate is handled the way that they want, asking them good questions about where the documents are. And then this gets into the power of attorney issues, getting power of attorneys for finance, getting powers of attorneys for healthcare. Very, very important work that needs to be done early on in the journey so that you can take care of mom's health issues when she's in the hospital, sign for her, write checks, do the things that are going to need to be taken care of for them financially. So these powers of attorneys, what we've done in our family is I have my boys named as our power of attorney for our financial affairs if something happens to me, and then I put the girls in charge of the healthcare. Because I feel like the boys might pull the plug given the chance since they have the access to the money, but I can trust my girls to take good care of Lisa and I as we age. So those power of attorney documents, asking if they've been done, getting an attorney engaged at this point to get everything dusted off and updated. Very, very important stuff. Next thing I want to talk about is taxes. One of the best things that you can do to really understand your parents' situation is take a look at their last 3 years' tax returns. Going through those are going to show you, is their Social Security being overtaxed? Are they getting, pension benefits, VA benefits, things like they're supposed to that are being reported there? All their investment income, capital gains, income, dividends will all be reported on that tax form, and you can really see what's going on. You can also see if they'll be eligible for a medical expense deduction. Maybe they don't know that. They've got a ton of medical bills all of a sudden, or their Medicare Advantage plans have gotten so expensive with prescription drugs, et cetera, that they can now write those medical expenses off. A lot of areas of things that you can learn from that tax return. So asking to take a look at those is in everyone's benefit. You can do a lot of tax planning. This is a good chance to get their tax preparation professional involved or their financial advisor involved to say, here's what I'm seeing. Is there anything that we're missing here? Running it through some tax software to look for opportunities, making sure they're not overpaying in things like their state taxes. Like in Iowa here, retirement income is no longer taxed, but if they're doing their taxes on their own, they may not know that. Taxes are always changing and they're always fluid. And every year you could have a big tax loss, perhaps, that they haven't realized, or a big taxable gain that they haven't paid taxes on. All of this stuff just needs attention. And as they get older, again, this can be something that they just aren't aware of, that they need to be taken care of. Or if they've done their taxes on their own with paper forms for years, they're still doing that. And there's just things that are getting missed. Grabbing those tax returns, taking a look, getting a third-party oversight of these can save them a lot of money, and it can save you a lot of heartburn down the road as far as how those assets are going to be passed on. Or have the taxes been paid? If are there going to be tax liens? Are their property taxes getting paid? All of that kind of fun stuff. Talked about immediate money. Now we have to take a look at future money. This more applies to if you're going to, what's going to happen when some of these assets get sold. Houses, farms, huge. A lot of people keep the farms in the family. Many people of the 40s and 50s bought stocks directly from the company. So they would buy Exxon shares let those dividends reinvest and grow over time. Those shares are housed at a company like ComputerShare or directly at, General Motors or wherever they may have bought those from. So those are going to have to be dealt with. Tracking down the cost basis of those stocks is going to be important. Now, when someone passes and they pass money on to their beneficiaries, one of the things that many people don't know is that they get what's called a step up in cost basis. So let's say somebody bought General Motors shares for $10,000 and it's now worth $200,000 over the last 30 years. So there's $190,000 in unrealized capital gain inside of that stock. If you inherit that stock from your parents and you're a non-spouse beneficiary, you get what's called a stepped up cost basis there, where your basis becomes what the basis of that stock was the day that they passed, not the $10,000 that they paid. So if they have stocks that they've held for years that have sentimental value, it's a good idea for them to keep those and just pass those on down the road and not necessarily sell them while they're still alive and pay all those capital gains taxes. This is a good chance to involve a CPA, involve a financial advisor, say we've got these positions. What should we do with them? Should we get them into a brokerage account where they're easier to access? You can take those ComputerShare or wherever those things are custodied now and put them in a brokerage account like at Schwab or Fidelity, and then you'll be able to see them, be able to manage them. You'll see the cost basis can be input into those systems. Much easier to deal with, especially if something does happen to mom and dad. So this future money issues are these assets, when they're going to be sold, who's going to pay the taxes. Many folks will also have big annuity accounts. They've purchased annuities. They've been able to have tax deferred on their earnings inside of those annuities. When they pass those on, you, the beneficiary, if you are the beneficiary, will start paying taxes on that income. Taking a look at how much that's going to be, how that might work, if it's still the best thing for everyone. Like insurance just needs to be dusted off. Is this still the way we have it? Annuities are direct pass assets like insurance, which means it goes directly to the beneficiary, making sure those beneficiaries are up to date. If one of the spouses has passed away, you'll have someone who's called an owner on the account and an annuitant on the account. Checking to see that those are the way that they're supposed to be done, and then the beneficiaries have been updated after someone passes is very important, because these don't have to go through probate. They can go directly to you as the beneficiary without that process. Therefore, it's great just to spend a little bit of time to understand, look at their statements, check with whoever is managing the annuity for them, that everything is set up the way that you want, and getting a feel for how those taxes are going to be handled. So future past assets, big assets that are going to get sold, how that's going to affect down the road, who's going to pay for funeral expenses, all of these kind of future money issues are one of the last areas that we need to talk about. And the final one I'm going to talk about briefly is cyber. We'll do a whole episode on cyber scams and cybersecurity for seniors, because this is a huge issue. My parents have been scammed. I've been scammed. I know a number of folks that have lost money through phishing attempts or elder scams in particular, where they convince people that they've got. For instance, my wife's mother received a call saying that my son Matthew was in jail. And she goes, "Well, if he's in jail, then call his dad. What are you calling me for?" And she hung up. So she was able to thwart that scam. However, with artificial intelligence now, voices can be faked, documents can be faked, and these scammers are ruthless. They are cruel. It is one of the worst crimes out there, in my opinion, but it is rampant and only growing. So making sure you have some safeguards in place with where passwords are kept for your parents, what accounts they have online access to, who can transfer money in and out of accounts. For instance, for most of our clients, we have what's called limited access on their Schwab accounts, which is where we have our assets custodied for our clients. Limited access means transfers can't go in and out without us initiating them here at Prairie Fire. So they can't go in, or someone can't hack into their account and transfer money out. Now, you can get access to that, and we do grant it to some that have asked for it. But for many clients, we don't, because they don't need it. They want us to do that for them. And it does diminish, in my opinion, their ability to be scammed then and money transferred out of their accounts. So through email, a lot of them don't use email, but many do. It's easy to get in their head and convince them that something's wrong. They need to take care of an issue. They get into their computers and put in malware, and it's just, it's horrible. What's going on in this part of the cyber world is out of control, and our parents need our help with this, and making sure that they're asking questions, that if they don't understand something, they call us and ask, involving experts. All of that kind of thing is important. These scams are only growing. They're going to get smarter with AI and artificial intelligence, and all that we can do to help is going to be imperative. So Like I said, I'll do a full episode just on cyber scams and ways to protect yourself and your parents. But for now, just as you're doing your checklist and as you're looking through the checklist that we put together for you, cyber's not on there, but elder abuse is. And cyber is one of the biggest areas where elder abuse is taking place right now. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I hope this has been helpful. This is the beginning of a series that we're going to be talking about caring for mom and dad, all the different issues that come along with that, how we can help them, how we can be there for them, learning patience. I'm going to bring in some experts along the way. Don't forget to click on the PDF that we put together for you, both in the show notes on YouTube or in the RSS feed on Apple Podcasts. We'll have that available. Also on our website, we'll have this PDF available about in 2024, what issues should I consider in caring for my aging parents? So hope that you'll find this helpful. Please send any feedback to us at info@pfwplanning. Thank you so much for being part of Prairie Fire. We'll talk to everybody real soon.